Madness of Ernie. It was a chilly, overcast day in March. Around 3 o'clock that afternoon, I got in my car and drove on over to meet at Frank's house. Reason being was because that day, Colin, Steve, Frank, Chad, and I were going to a basketball game. It was the March Madness finale for that year, with the Maryland Terps facing off against the Indiana Hussars for the final bracket. Whoever won this game would be deemed the March Madness champion for the year. I didn't care too much about basketball, nor did my friend Colin, but people like Steve sometimes took events like these way too seriously. I pulled into Frank's driveway next. Colin and Steve were already standing in the driveway, waiting for me. It seemed that Chad was running late, as usual, as he had not yet pulled up. "There he is," Colin pointed out. Out then stepped Chad Dawalski, looking fit and muscular as always. "Ready to go to the hoop game, bros?" he asked. He wore his typical football letterman jacket with jeans. His blonde swoosh was crisp as always, along with his crisp new pair of LeBrons he wore on his feet. "Man, Chad, you really think you can ball?" Steve asked. "Well, I never said that directly now, bros, but I do have quite the mean reputation when it comes to shooting three-pointers. At least that's what the basketball coach at school tells me, that is. But I said I needed to stay loyal to the football team instead, as that is where I'm needed most." "That be some bullshit, Chad. I'll tell you what, when we get to the game today, I'm gonna hop on the court and join it with the Terps. I'm gonna score him a winning shot." Steve looked like he was taking this game way too seriously. Like Chad, he wore an overly expensive pair of basketball shorts on his feet, only Air Jordans, not LeBrons. He also wore saggy shorts going well below his knees, along with what he claimed to be a vintage basketball jersey of Michael Jordan. This was false though, as upon closer inspection, the jersey appeared to have been made in China in the year 2022. Definitely a fake, but I decided not to call him out on it. Just then, Frank came outside to meet us. He too wore oversized basketball shorts, but on his torso he wore a cheesy looking long-sleeved sweater that had a picture of a basketball doing the dab pose on it. "Hey guys!" Frank said. "Buzz man, can I just go somewhere with you without you looking like a dumbass?" "Are we all ready?" I asked everybody. "Fuck yeah, fam! We finna get lit tonight at the game." We all piled into the car and got ready to go. However, as we were about to go, I began receiving an Instagram FaceTime call on my phone. My heart skipped a beat when I saw who was calling. It was no one other than Herbert Ernie himself. Oh no, what could he be calling for? I thought to myself. Everyone gathered around as I picked up the call. Herbert appeared to be chilling in his room. He sat in his crusty computer gaming chair with a bulky headset on. He was snacking on a bag of pizza-flavored Pringles as he spoke. Here is our conversation.
"Hello, lads. What you boys up to on this lovely day?"
We're going to an accounting convention. You know, pretty boring stuff that you likely wouldn't be interested in, meaning there really isn't any point in you coming since you'd be really bored.
"Nonsense. An accounting convention seems like the perfect way to spend a Saturday, especially with you boys. Just send me the location so I can meet you both there."
I then went on to Google and searched up some recreational building in the area before sending it to Herbert. I texted it to him through Instagram, saying that it was where we were going, which is obviously a lie. Our plan worked though, as Herbert would now be heading somewhere we weren't. This meant our time at the basketball game would be Herbert free. Or so we thought. I pulled out of Frank's driveway and got onto the main road. However, I guess I timed leaving Frank's house pretty badly, because as we approached a four-way intersection, we ran into Herbert Ernie, who was driving his blue minivan. He caught sight of us and waved frantically, tried to ignore him. We then made a sharp right turn onto another road, but now Herbert was right behind us. I could see his crazy eyes looking directly at me through the rearview mirror. He looked absolutely nuts. Okay, now this was bad. Herbert Ernie, of all people, is now right on our tail as we drove. We had no way of getting him off our ass either. We had a Gramps driving in front of us, so we couldn't speed ahead of him, and no matter where we went, Herbert could simply follow us. "What are we gonna do now, bros?" asked Chad, sounding quite worried. "I have an idea," Colin replied. "How about we just stop at a gas station or something, and tell Herbert that we just need to stop for like snacks or whatnot. Then we can tell him to keep on going, and just to meet us at the quote-unquote convention center." The rest of us all liked that idea. I pulled over at a 7-Eleven across the street from the local Wookdale village. As expected, Herbert followed us in, before parking right next to us. He then stepped outside and greeted us.
"Hello, boys. Snackering?"
Yep. We'll be quick though, so, if you just want to continue on over to the convention center, we can just meet you there.
"I'm afraid I cannot do that now, boys. As friends, we must stick together as one unit, and therefore, I declare that we are to carpool to the accounting convention together."
"We can't do that, Herbert. There aren't enough seats in the car for you," stressed Colin.
"No worries, fellas. I can ride in the truck.
We didn't have any time to stop Herbert. He had already wriggled his way into the trunk and constructed a sort of throne out of his blubber. And yes, he really is that obese that he could do that. Herbert then turned to face us. It was at that moment we were able to grasp a full and complete look at him, and let's just say, he looked absolutely nuts. He wore a full and complete disco outfit that involved a metallic rainbow-colored suit. The suit was a onesie, meaning the shirt part and pants part were merged into one. On his feet, he wore a pair of low-top Vans with the plaid tile design on them. His hairdo was the worst of all, though. He had shaved all of his hair on the sides, leaving only the top. Here's the thing about it. He had a sort of bowl cut, but not the kind that you're thinking of. Rather, he had a literal bowl cut. His hair was very puffy and crazy, sticking up 7+ inches. It didn't go straight up, rather, it was angled so that it was narrower at the bottom before widening out at the top, which would be completely flat if it weren't for the literal bowl shape shaved out inside. It's really difficult to explain how crazy and weird this type of hairdo is. I've never seen anything like it in my life. His triple chin was soaked to the brim with drool, and his potbelly acted as a sort of table now sitting out in front of him.
Now that is some fine wine, isn't it, lads?
Herbert inquired as he poured some expired fruit punch into a dirty wine glass. Herbert, you can't come. This accounting convention is likely going to be extremely boring, and you wouldn't even be interested in it anyway, Colin said.
We're not going to an accounting convention. You said we're going to a basketball game.
What a dumbass, Frank. You revealed our plan.
Basketball, eh, boys? Seems like that came to me. My name is Disco Boy Ernie, and it is my sole honor and duty to make sure this year's March Madness tournament gets spoiled with the perfect music composed by me. The referees at those basketball games are too well known for their despicable music tastes. But luckily, I'm here to fix that. My buddy and I have spent the last few weeks brewing up some hits in the studio, and today is my perfect opportunity to debut them.
No, Herbert. You're just gonna ruin the game. That's all you do. Every single time you come on one of our trips and try to do something, you always end up ruining it. Leave now, or I'm calling the police.
It's too late, Nick. This basketball game is already set in stone. They are counting on me to be there tonight to enrich the audience during halftime. But don't fret, I won't let you boys down. I will make sure this year has the best March Madness tournament ever!
At this point, we didn't even bother arguing with Herbert. The time was 3:30 in the afternoon, and the game began at 5, meaning we had time to make. Okay, Herbert, fine. But be good, Colin stated.
Don't worry, boys. I do nothing but good. This basketball game is in my hands. But we can't be dilly-dallying. We have time to make.
We then hit the road. The car ride was really nothing too special. Steve used the aux cord to blast his music, as usual. Herbert didn't like Steve's music, though. The entire time he played it, Herbert was crazily squirming around in the trunk, flailing his hands around, while screaming for us to stop playing it. But why would we listen? Herbert screamed. He then blew his referee's whistle hard, which made all our ears ring, even over Steve's loud music. Steve turned off the music, and Herbert proceeded to give us a piece of his mind.
Yeah, this music is rotten to the brain. It will interfere with my job as referee. I don't give a fuck, Chief. My music is perfect to get our pregame hap on,
Steve replied.
It's too late for that now, Stevie,
Herbert said as he swung himself over the seats, before landing across Steve, Frank, and Chad's laps in the back seats. I could tell people like Steve and Chad were now super cramped and uncomfortable. However, people like Frank, on the other hand, actually seemed to be enjoying Herbert's company.
Herbert's here.
It's indeed correct now, Frankie. It's indeed correct. Now, let's get the chit-chat and throw on some real tunes.
Herbert then pulled out his iPhone. It was a super old and outdated model with crust and residue of who knows what that was caked on the screen and cracked OtterBox case. He then snatched the aux cord from Steve and plugged it into his phone.
Time for the revolution of tunes to take control of these roads.
Herbert then went on to play his song. Let's just say that when it was finished, we were all traumatized to say the least. I had no idea who composed the song, but it definitely wasn't as good as Herbert hyped it up to be. Although with Herbert, it likely wasn't bound to be good in the first place. The beat was super weird and funky, and the lyrics were even worse.
Well, boys, did that fine tune tickle your fancy?
No, Herbert. Where did you find that? Who even composed it? Colin demanded.
A close buddy of mine composed it quite recently. He is bound to make the Grammy soon. Him and I actually met up in the studio last night to whip up some hits. Want to take a listen?
No! Colin and I both replied in unison. The reason we rejected his song offering so abruptly was because of how traumatized we were from listening to the other one. Herbert didn't listen though, and pulled up his song anyway. It wasn't on Spotify, SoundCloud, or even YouTube for that matter. I watched as Herbert pulled up a suspicious-looking JPEG video file from the vast depths of his camera roll, which contained a whole array of weird and creepy photos. Photos that I'm not going to go into detail on. Anyway, he hit play and the song was underway. Herbert's buddy was likely the producer for the song, because Herbert was the one singing. The beat was actually legit sounding, and it had real production sounds used in everything. That didn't mean that the beat was good though. It was super weird and, honestly, quite creepy. Here were the exact lyrics for the song, sung by Herbert Ernie himself.
And that is squishy. It is mushy. The X-Man mush and it gets mushy. Mushy, 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 mushy. Squishy, squishy. Sneak by the window at night. Watch and creep at night. Under the beds they sleep. Take pictures of my bows too. Special bow is the legend of my special bow prophecy. I am the Ernie Man. I am the Ernie Man. That is me. I get funky on special bows. And I like spine on special bows.
We were all silent. Herbert was busy jamming out throughout the entirety of the song.
Goes hard, doesn't it now?
Herbert inquired. No, Herbert, that was ass. Your song is super creepy and will get you into trouble. Don't you dare release that.
It's too late for that one now, Nick. My buddy back home is already in the process of uploading the new album to Spotify. And at this basketball game, everybody will get the opportunity to be enriched by my song.
Okay, I don't know much, but I do know one thing for sure. We cannot let Herbert play that song at the basketball game, for it will ruin the entire tournament. Herbert, who even is your buddy? And wait, did you say album? Colin asked.
Yep, my buddy must be kept anonymous now, for he will want to steal all the glory when I make it big. Oh yeah, and let me show you both that album.
Herbert then pulled out his phone again to show us his album. He wasn't kidding about it either. He showed us the list of songs, along with the album cover, which was just a creepy picture of him in his crusty bathroom mirror, shirtless. We could then see some of his songs that he had. Their names were the biggest red flag. Herbert's songs were named things such as The Tickler, Legend of the Chode, and Crinkle Cruncher. Herbert, again, you cannot release these songs. It's vital that you don't, Colin stressed.
It's too late. I'll be uploading the entire album on Spotify after the game tonight. The game will be my opportunity to grow my fanbase.
Just then, Herbert began receiving a phone call from someone. That contact read, Mikey Junn. Mikey seemed pissed. Here is their exact conversation. Herbert, stop plagiarizing my songs and renaming them. They're not yours.
Oh, don't worry now, Mikey. They're just remakes. It's a parody.
Don't you dare upload those songs to Spotify, Herbert, or there'll be huge consequences.
I must upload them.
Take this as a warning, Herbert. If you steal any more of my music, I'm calling the cops. This isn't the first time you've done this. Herbert then played one of his super funky songs. Turns out they did belong to Mikey, as the song sounded normal. Herbert just changed the names to fit his creepy agenda. I wouldn't say that Daxton's music was that good though. It was just some covers of some old 70s rock bands, you know, vintage stuff. And he didn't really do a good job at it. Well, Herbert, it seems now that you really shouldn't upload these to Spotify, Colin said. It's stolen music.
Oh, that Mikey boy doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm doing him a favor by uploading it. He will get famous. Under the permission of Disco Boy Ernie, of course.
The rest of the car ride was pretty uneventful. It was around 4:30 in the evening, and we had just pulled into the basketball stadium parking lot. Let's just say that it was packed. Pretty usual for an event as big as the March Madness tournament. We walked up to the entrance and showed the workers our entrance tickets. Herbert, though, was stopped in his tracks. Sorry, Herbert, you can't come. You don't have a ticket, said Colin.
Come on!
Herbert exclaimed in frustration before scurrying away and out of sight. His plaid-designed van sounded quite funny as he ran, smacking along the asphalt. Whew, glad he's gone, I mentioned.
Yeah, G, now we can hoop the way we're supposed to. Elliot Williams style.
Okay then, go find our seats. And we did just that. We used our tickets to locate our seat numbers. Luckily, the seats were all right next to each other. That we reserved beforehand. Our seats were right smack in the middle of the audience area. They weren't at the top, nor were they courtside. Just then, the game began. The entire crowd was hyped. The players then entered onto the stadium. For the first 25 minutes or so, everything was going smoothly. The Terps were winning as of the current moment, with the score being 11-7. Frank was getting hungry.
We get funnel cakes.
he asked. "Do we have to, Frank? Just got here, and all the funnel cakes will do and make a greasy mess anyway," Colin replied.
Well, hold up now, bro. Frank bro might actually be onto something, as broiled milk cakes might not actually be that lousy of an idea. We already know that our brains, not just our bodies, need fuel. And I say we all eat as many funnel cakes as we possibly can for maximum mind function. We're gonna need the brain power if we're gonna want to be able to predict these plays accurately.
Chad explained in thorough detail. "Sure, guess we can go then," I said. We all left our seats and made our way down to the food stand area. They had all sorts of things such as Dippin' Dots, hot dogs, burgers, ice cream, as well as the funnel cakes themselves, of course. Chad and Frank went to go and get their funnel cakes. I went to get a milkshake from the ice cream stand, and Colin went to get Dippin' Dots instead. Steve, on the other hand, was feeling something more on the savory side of things.
Man, fuck all this sweet thinking shit. I want hot dogs,
he proclaimed. "You can get that," replied Colin. Steve then storms off to get his hot dogs. Just then, Frank and Chad arrived back with their funnel cakes. Chad's cake looked normal and pretty good. I don't know how, but somehow, Frank always ends up with the most gross items of food ever. His funnel cake was absolutely disgusting in appearance. Steve, too, then arrived back with his hot dogs. They didn't look too appetizing either. "Steve, you know how those things are made, right?" Colin asked.
Of course I do, man. Only with the primest beef of Wisconsin. Just like GBD.
Colin and I weren't fooled though. We knew the real way those hot dogs were made. We'd watched too many videos on YouTube about that topic. Anyway, enough of that. We all finished up our food and headed back to our seats. I said that I'd meet everyone up there in a minute, as I needed to use the restroom first. I walked in and looked for a urinal to use. Herbert Ernie was also in there. He stood by a urinal and appeared to be finishing up his business, if you know what I'm talking about. "Herbert!" I exclaimed. "How did you get into the game?"
Hello, Nick. Almost half game?
"No, Herbert, it is not almost halftime. I'll ask you again. How did you get into the game? You don't even have a ticket."
I crawled my way through the pipes and sewers. That is how I got to where I am now.
It was obvious that Herbert had been in some questionable, to say the least, places, as he was filthy. He still wore the rainbow disco suit from earlier, and seemed to have gained even more weight within the past hour. I didn't even know that was physically possible. And it was weird too. Herbert was already practically the size of an obese refrigerator. Yes, an obese refrigerator. Emphasis on obese. Anyway, dirt also took a nasty residence inside of his bowl cut. And grease and pus oozed from his triple chin. His eyes were beady, and his teeth were yellow and rotten. I'm not sure which of the two were worse, his breath or his body odor. I'd probably say his breath smelled worse, but don't be fooled. His BO was strong enough to make even Captain Underpants run for the hills.
Anyway,
Herbert then mentioned,
I gotta run. Halftime will be starting before we know it, and I gotta make my way into this big stand to set up for my performance. Because trust me, that this performance will be the show of the lifetime. You won't be hearing much of me afterwards, though, as I will be off to the grubbies.
I tried to stop Herbert, but it was too late. Herbert was already in the process of running out of the bathrooms. Whatever, I thought to myself. I knew that Herbert was likely just bluffing about his show, and that he really only made all that talk about his music so he could get attention. Little did I know, however, was that you should never assume the best when it comes to Herbert Ernie himself. I exited the bathrooms and made my way back to our seats. The game was in full swing now, but the Terps were still winning. I tried my best to get my mind off of Herbert Ernie and to get focused back in on the game. The game went well for the next 20 or so minutes. That was until I looked up into the stadium rafters. My heart skipped a beat when I did. Up in those rafters was no one other than Herbert Ernie himself. I then glanced at the scoreboard/clock and realized that halftime began in less than 5 minutes. I guess Herbert wasn't bluffing after all about his performance. Turned out, he was serious. There was absolutely nothing in which I could do. I don't think that anyone else had noticed him yet, as the game was still proceeding as normal. I looked up more closely at him and witnessed Herbert take out a sort of mat from a backpack that he previously wasn't wearing. He then went on to sip on an ice-cold glass of lemonade so as to fuel up before the big performance. Just then, the spokesperson announced halftime. Herbert took notice and sprang into action. He chuckled to himself in a rather creepy manner. Herbert then sat up from his mat and put his lemonade back into his backpack. He then swung his feet over the edge of one of the rafter pipes and went on to press a sort of button on his Van plaid designed shoes. springs and emerged from the bottoms of them, reaching all the way to the floor of the basketball court. The entire crowd gasped in shock. The springs looked super bouncy and not stable at all. Herbert then hopped off of the rafters, putting the springs into action. The springs caused him to be flung all over the place. He went from one end to the stadium to the other in mere milliseconds. I'm sure you can imagine how crazy this would be, as he would get in the faces of the spectators by mere inches every time he revolved around. Herbert screamed. Just then, the lights were cut off and the entirety of the stadium rafters collapsed. Luckily, everyone was able to evacuate the basketball stadium without any problems. It was all the way dark outside when we got out. Just then, the fire department, along with the police, arrived. 5 minutes later, and Herbert was being fireman carried out of the rubble that was now the basketball stadium. He kicked and squirmed as he was carried and taken away. I couldn't believe it. Herbert had just ruined the March Madness finale. Chad, Colin, Steve, Frank, and I were done at this point. We hopped back in the car and simply went on home, traumatized from what Herbert had done. The irony of the whole situation was how Herbert claimed he was going to make some sort of musical bang, but instead, he just ended up springing around the stadium. This really has been some real madness of Ernie.